All right, the first story, the Nintendo Switch isn't just a big win for Nintendo, it's a big win for third-party game makers as well, with the Switch becoming the fastest-selling console in history at more than 10 million units in its first year. It's no surprise that those numbers are good news for developers who release their games on the system. The Game Developers Conference has surveyed nearly 4,000 third-party game developers, asking them how Switch sales of their games compare to other platforms. The majority of respondents say that that Switch sales have been greater or about the same as other platforms, while only 16% say that Switch sales have been less than average. This basically means that third-party games are selling well on the platform, which means you can expect to see some big franchises find their way to the Switch in the coming year. That is the speculation. That's the educated guess. I think that we're going to see a lot of big Switch announcements at E3 this year. It won't just be Nintendo and a handful of awesome indie developers. I think some of the big AAA teams out there are starting to look at the Switch very seriously. It's going to be a very interesting year. The Switch is just offering something unique, as we all know. You know, the idea that you can just continue on with your game no matter where you go. We live in a very mobile society, and it's sort of snuck in there, and it's won a lot of hearts. And I'm very curious. You guys can let us know in the chat, because we are live, if you've got some thoughts on the Switch and what you're kind of hoping for and expecting out of Nintendo for E3 later this year. And we can talk about that as we're having our Let's Play and chat at the end of the show. Moving on to our next story, new intel about the next Mission Impossible movie has come in. Tom Cruise himself has announced that the upcoming 6th film in the spy series will be titled Mission Impossible Fallout. The first official promo image from the film has also arrived, showing Cruise hanging on for dear life outside of a moving helicopter. Something tells me this is kind of like how he gets to set, actually. Cruise promises that the new movie will be upping the ante on screen, but there will also be some high-stakes drama. There has also been some high-stakes drama behind the scenes as well. Back in August, shooting on the film was halted when the 55-year-old Tom Cruise, who insists on performing his own stunts, broke his ankle after falling from a building. The accident caused some real-life fallout because Paramount Pictures had to delay the release of the film. It's now slated to hit theaters on July 27th. Now, the big deal about this movie is that Christopher McQuarrie is back. Tom Cruise and McQuarrie teamed up on the first Jack Reacher movie. McQuarrie directed the last Mission Impossible film, which I can't remember these titles. They're coming out so quickly. I think it was Rogue Nation. Very cool movie, and I really was impressed with the direction and the script. It was an exhilarating film, so I'm very much looking forward to Mission Impossible 6. But I have to say that Rebecca Ferguson needs her own franchise. She's an amazing actor. She's very good in whatever she's in. I just saw her in The Greatest Showman, where she plays the world's greatest opera singer, and she totally sold that performance as well. She was incredible in the last Mission Impossible film, and I expect she was so good, they said, yeah, we're bringing you back for the sequel. And this is a series that traditionally, they've had strong actors, but they've basically said, yeah, well, we might see you again, and then we don't. A few of the people have stuck around for more than one. But it's a big deal that Rebecca Ferguson is back for this one. I can't wait to see how this whole thing comes together. I just watched, actually, a little behind the scenes of Tom Cruise doing a stunt where he's driving a motorcycle and he hits something and he goes flying off the bike, and he's actually on rigging, and it's him, 55-year-old him, flying around. And I was like, why does he do that? Like, that's not good for the production if he hurts himself. But the guy likes to do that, so we'll see. Hopefully MI6 is good. Now, it looks like Disney and Marvel's latest gamble is going to pay off big time. The new superhero movie Black Panther is tracking to have a huge opening weekend, with estimates putting it at somewhere between $100 million and $120 million domestically. I guess that's just for that weekend, which is crazy. That would put it near the Avengers. With the exception of the Avengers, that would give Black Panther the biggest opening weekend ever for a new Marvel franchise, not adjusting for inflation. And this is especially good news because some were skeptical that this movie would be such a big hit. Black Panther obviously stars an African hero, and almost the entire supporting cast is made up of black actors as well, which is something that Hollywood has traditionally avoided out of fear that it wouldn't make as much money at the box office. Hopefully, Black Panther will prove everybody wrong, and the film hits theaters on February 12th. Is it 12th or the 16th? 12th in Europe, gotcha. And the 16th in North America. I can't wait to see it. I'm going to be away from the studio then, so I will probably be reporting on my thoughts of Black Panther from somewhere. I'm not sure where I'm going to be, but or where I'm going to see it. But I can't wait for that movie. I've read a little bit of Black Panther stuff. Obviously, we had Evan Narcisse on the show last week, and he was phenomenal. He's writing the Rise of the Black Panther comics, which is a good place to start if you want to familiarize yourself with the character. He's sort of delving into the history and giving us a great sense of the rise, which is the title, of this incredible character. I can't wait. I mean, it looks amazing, and it looks distinctive, and that's pretty hard to do when you've made 16 or 17 superhero movies under the Marvel Cinematic Universe already. That comes out in February. Can't wait. The rivalry between Disney's Star Wars and Sony's Jumanji might be continuing for years to come. This is a crazy story. With the new movie Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, performing surprisingly well against the juggernaut that is Star Wars, The Last Jedi. Welcome to the Jungle is performing surprisingly well, and that means that they want to make another sequel. Obviously, Sony's excited about that, and it might be going up against the next Star Wars film in December 2019. The Wall Street Journal reports that Jumanji distributor Sony Pictures is putting together a sequel, and they're planning to have it in theaters right around the time we've got the Episode 9 flick out there. The new Jumanji has so far earned about $800 million worldwide, so it's no surprise that Sony wants more. But what is surprising is just how well Jumanji has done compared to The Last Jedi. Even though it hasn't made as much as The Last Jedi's $1.2 billion, it has held its own and has actually spent more weeks in the #1 spot than Star Wars has. We'll get to see how well the next films do in 2019. Now, this is crazy. I thought Jumanji was pretty fun, but it was very forgettable. And The Last Jedi, I do have some issues with it, but it is absolutely not forgettable. There's so many cool, new ideas that are thrust into there. And obviously some of them are a little controversial, and they've created a lot of skepticism amongst Star Wars fanatics out there. But you can't deny that Rian Johnson wanted to shake things up and give us fodder for conversation. But I feel like the risk-taking has come at a bit of a price. I think he's had to kind of respond to a lot of criticism around this, and there has just been a lot of negativity around The Last Jedi, and so I understand it because we're passionate about it, and I've got some issues that I've been pretty vocal about as well, but it is kind of crazy because it's a way better movie than Jumanji, but Jumanji is, I think, maybe even more family-friendly, and you can't stop The Rock. That guy is the biggest star in the world right now, I think. And, the guy is so big, he's going to make a movie about Rampage, the video game Rampage from the 80s. We'll see how that does. That will be the real test of The Rock's power. He didn't do so well with Baywatch, but Jumanji hit for whatever reason. It's just okay. Now, it looks like Electronic Arts is going to continue their new games as service model with the next Dragon Age. After yesterday's announcement that a new Dragon Age game is in development, BioWare General Manager Casey Hudson has revealed a few new pieces of information about the project. Writing on Twitter, Hudson says that the new game will once again have a strong emphasis on story and characters, but the thing that will set it apart from other Dragon Age games is that it's being designed as a live experience, quote-unquote live, but with continued storytelling after the main story is finished. This sounds like the new Dragon Age will use the games as service model, which basically means that new expansions, missions, and online content is released on regular basis for years after the base game arrives. Other big games like Grand Theft Auto Online, Rainbow Six Siege, and BioWare's upcoming Anthem are using similar models. There's no word yet on when the new Dragon Age will arrive. I think this is sort of part and parcel where the video game industry is going right now. They want to lock you in, whether it's going to be, like the Xbox Game Pass or whatever. They want to get you in their community, and they want to keep you there. Ubisoft, I think, has provided an incredible example of continuing to support a product after launch and watching that community stay active and even grow based on older software that they can discount and sort of bring back to market at different kinds of price points. And I feel like there's an expectation now that $60 is just your entry pass if you're going to buy the software. But I think this is kind of the way that as we start to talk about subscription to software and the Netflix of games as an inevitable eventuality, it's going to be this kind of constant stream of updating and stuff that's going to be keeping us in these communities, and that's what's more valuable. It's not so much that there is a repeat customer kind of element in there, and that sort of extended value on gaining money. But you got to think about these games from, the way that they've historically performed is they'd come out, they'd have their opening weekend and the buzz around it, or a couple of weeks of great big sales, and then they get forgotten, which makes for great buried treasure type content. But a lot of these games are very expensive, risky bets, and we're seeing a little bit less of that with these massive team scales. And I think as we go into subscription stuff, it's going to be more about keeping that community active and engaged, because that works as a way to kind of continually market to new people, and they will find their way in. So, it's going to be clumsy. It's going to be sort of stumbling in the dark for a while. A lot of mistakes are going to get made, but eventually we're going to find our way to support large teams, because we want this content, right? Everybody that's watching this, whether you're watching this live or watching this as an archive later on, everybody that's watching this is a believer in games and understands what we're going to do with this stuff. And we want to see big software get made, and so the industry is finding new ways to be able to support that. This is going to be one of those things, but we also have to call these companies, to the carpet when they try to rip us off and try to screw us and don't give us our value for our money. We've got to let them know, and we have so many different ways to be able to do that. So it's going to be very interesting. I think it's smart of Casey to get out ahead of this, because there's obviously a lot of skepticism. But I'm excited, man. Like, that's a good team over there, and I really dig Casey. I think his heart is in the right place. He's a very passionate leader, and I think we're going to see some great, big, cool games from BioWare, and that's what I'm expecting. So let's see. Let's hope that happens.